Hi there and welcome back. Let's review Barrett's esophagus today, or also known as Barrett syndrome BE. Barrett's esophagus is damage to the lower portion of the tube that goes from mouth to the stomach. Simply speaking, Barrett's esophagus is a serious complication of GERD. GERD, as we know, is a gastroesophageal reflux disease. So that's GERD. Not that everyone with the history of GERD ends up developing Barrett's esophagus, and not that everyone who has Barrett's esophagus has had a history of GERD. There are no specific symptoms as such as far as the Barrett's esophagus goes, but the symptoms are related to GERD. Statistically speaking, it is said and believed that about 10% of the people with chronic GERD, they end up developing Barrett's esophagus. And Barrett's esophagus, once you have been diagnosed with the Barrett's esophagus, there is a higher probability of developing the unfortunate fatal esophageal adenocarcinoma. So, talking about the symptoms are like a burning sensation, heartburns, laryngitis, chronic cough, or nausea. These are the things that one would see in GERD, or the gastroesophageal reflux disease. There is what we call esophageal sphincter. Esophagus, as I was saying, is a tube that connects from the mouth to the stomach. Esophageal sphincter is a ring of muscle at the end of the esophagus where it joins the stomach. Normally what happens when we eat, the food goes into the stomach releases the acid, but it has a built-in protection so that it would not damage the internal organs or the contents such that it would have any negative impact. However, when esophageal sphincter doesn't work properly, and as a result the contents of the stomach flows backward, then it is called reflux. So as a result, what happens with the chronic GERD, the normal lining of the tissue of the esophagus, that turns into the lining that resembles to the lining of the intestine, and so that then it is labeled as Barrett's esophagus. So now let's talk about the risk factors. So what are the risk factors? Generally speaking, if you have a chronic history of chronic GERD or the gastroesophageal reflux disease, you may end up having a Barrett's esophagus. Another risk factor is having a GERD diagnosed at a younger age. And last but not least, if there is a current or past smoking history, then higher probability of having Barrett's esophagus. As I was saying while reviewing the symptoms, that you may not have the specific symptoms, so the diagnosis when it comes to the Barrett's esophagus requires endoscopy and biopsy. So that is as far as the diagnosis goes. As far as the treatment goes with gastric acid suppression with a PPI or what is called proton pump inhibitor. So that's the normal trend when it comes to the treatment. How about the complications? The complications are low-grade dysplasia, high-grade dysplasia, and sometimes unfortunate esophageal adenocarcinoma. Okay, so how do we underwrite? correlate all the details that you gather and capture from the medical records and whatever sources you have in front of you. Plug those details into the company specifics and the manuals, and follow your underwriting manual and the company specifics. But just to summarize, enough to say that as long as there has been a regular follow-up and treatment, there are no complications, no dysplasia, endoscopy, biopsy, routine follow-up. If you have that, then we are looking at in the range of standard to mild rating. Okay. With that, for intro session, the Barrett's esophagus, suffice to say that these are the things you need to know to underwrite what you may have in front of you. Let's take a break here and see you soon. Take care. Bye now.